Hello.
Hi, Jose.
Yes, Bob.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. How about yourself,
I'm
sir?
doing fantastically, thank you.
I just got into Orlando, and boy, the weather doesn't look friendly out there
Yeah.
for a launch.
Well, if anybody should know, did you ever have to go through a delay?
What's that?
Did you ever have? How many flights did you go on, and were any of them delayed because of the weather?
Oh yeah, I only went on one, but it was delayed because of weather. I think we were gonna launch on a Monday, and it was delayed because of weather till Tuesday, and then we developed a few control valve problems, so we ended up launching on Friday. So it was about a four day delay.
Yeah. What do you do in that time?
Well, you're in crew quarters, and you're basically just refreshing your training. You know, we have workstations there to. I was one of the principal robotic arm operators, so we had workstations there to practice that, and we had workstations to practice rendezvous operations. That's where when we physically connect the shuttle to the International Space Station. So there's plenty of things that keep you busy during that time.
Fantastic. I guess is you're there for the launch,
Yes, I am, sir. Uh-huh.
and how long are you prepared to stay? Given that we're not sure what the weather's going to do.
Well, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be here through Sunday, and then of course I have a real job nowadays, and so I got to get back to work on Monday, and we have some stuff we got to do at work, and so that's why my cutoff point is going to be Sunday.
Gotcha. What's your real job?
I am executive director for an aerospace company called MEI Technologies Incorporated. It's based here in Houston, and we basically provide engineering services solutions to folks like NASA in the aerospace business, Department of Defense, and the Army, and those type of organizations where they need or they can utilize engineering expertise in certain areas.
Okay. Now, this is the last shuttle. How much more engineering technologies are they gonna have? I mean, I think people are looking at this saying that the space program is essentially dead. Is that the case? How do you see it?
That's farther from the truth than anything that the space program is dead. Actually, we're just entering a new era, Bob. What's happening is we're basically at the same stage we were at in 1972 when Apollo 17 was about to launch. It was the last mission, and because of the limited resources we have, you can't develop a new vehicle and in parallel run a space program because it's just too expensive. So what happened with the Apollo program is we canceled the Apollo program, and it wasn't until April of 1981, 9 years later, that we flew the next generation vehicle, which was the space shuttle. Well, 2011, we're at the same stage. The shuttles have been operating for a little over 30 years. It's time to move on to a new architecture, and so we're going to have to shut it down, shift those resources to develop a new vehicle. But the exciting part of it, in this particular case, the exciting part of it is, Bob, is that we've been doing low Earth orbit for over 40 years, and specifically with the shuttle for 30 years. And out of it, what we've got this beautiful international space station put together by a consortium of 16 countries that now is orbiting Earth, has been dubbed a national laboratory, and it's going to be working through at least 2020. So NASA is very smartly dividing space exploration into two areas. One area is low Earth orbit, and the other is beyond low Earth orbit. As I mentioned earlier, we've been in the low Earth orbit business for over 40 years, specifically with the shuttle over 30 years. Now we believe it's the time to help and incentivize private industry to develop low Earth orbit capability. In doing so, that's going to free up NASA to work on what it does best, which is to work on the harder problems, which is going beyond low Earth orbit, and that's going to the moon, going to the moon, going back to the moon, perhaps establishing a base so that we can learn how to live for long periods of time away from the Earth, and then developing the technologies necessary, advanced propulsion systems, life support systems, radiation protection systems that are going to allow us to do interplanetary travel to Mars and beyond. And so I think it's even more exciting. I think it's not dead. I think the possibilities now we're unlocking even more possibilities by committing ourselves to going beyond low Earth orbit.
So are you suggesting that we're talking about private companies offering trips into space, and while NASA is working on other things?
Absolutely. What NASA is doing as we retire the space shuttle, we're contracting with the Russians to send our astronauts to the International Space Station, because we have 6 astronauts continuously up in space. It's an international group of astronauts. We at least have 2 seats, sometimes 3 slots there. And to send those astronauts, we send them 6 months at a time. We need to contract with the Russians. So we're very anxious for private industry to develop the capability so that they not only take supplies up to the International Space Station, but they make them human-rated so they can take our astronauts, and we can contract with U.S. companies to take our astronauts to the International Space Station. And so we're talking about companies like SpaceX, Orbital Science, Virgin Galactic. There's a host of companies out there that are developing their vehicles that we believe within 3, at most 4 years, are going to be able to send humans up into space.
Okay. Now, the company that you work for, I mean, you keep saying we like you're still with NASA. Are you? But you're.
Well, once an astronaut, always an astronaut, Bob. So NASA is part of my family. Just because I left, it doesn't mean you just got to leave the house. It doesn't stop being my dad and my mom, right? So NASA is we, and we are. MEI Technologies is an aerospace company that has contracts with NASA. We work with NASA. We support NASA. And so I say we in the sense of the space community, the U.S. space community, and NASA in particular. Absolutely. Forgive me if I say that.
How long do you think it'll be before we start sending man-made craft up again? And what kind of vehicle are they going to be in? As you said, we're heading to a different vehicle. So how long and what are they going to be in?
Okay, well, I think there's two answers to that question. The first part is we being the U.S. on the commercial side. I think you're going to see companies sending up and docking to the International Space Station as soon as 2 years from now. But then these are private companies now. Now us, in terms of NASA, with the NASA rocket, new architecture that NASA owns the pink slip to that vehicle, that I see that happening about 6 years at the earliest. And that's because, remember, we're now designing a new vehicle that's going to be able to take us beyond low Earth orbit. So it's going to be a little bit more, we need a little bit more horsepower. And the architecture that's going to be looking like, it's going to be very similar to the Apollo program architecture. In other words, it's going to be a rocket with a capsule on top. And lots of people have dubbed it Apollo on steroids is probably what's going to be looking like. It'll probably be looking like a rocket with additional boosters on the side, but it's going to be a capsule. It's not going to be a reusable vehicle that comes in gliding and lands like an airplane like our shuttle does. It's going to be more a throwback to the older days where it's a capsule that basically comes into the atmosphere, parachutes in, and it either lands in water or on land. I believe right now the plan is for it to land underwater.
Okay. And then as you watch, hopefully you're going to be there for the launch.
Yes.
What do you remember, I guess, most fondly and I guess least fondly about your own trip into space?
Well, I mean, I remember us getting ready, putting on the launch entry suits, which are those orange, we call them pumpkin suits, and doing the walk to the launch pad, we get on the Astronaut and then walking up to the elevator, going up the 192-foot level, ingressing into the shuttle, and then waiting for the countdown to begin, and then or continue, and then pinching yourself, say, I can't believe in a few minutes I'll be up in space. I think that was the best feeling I had. A worse feeling, I think, was probably coming back home, adapting to 1G when your body is used to a 0G environment, especially your vestibular balance system. Getting back is almost like, being car sick. You feel a little bit nauseated, but after a few hours you recover from that part.
And how was the and if you would just kind of take us through, what you did and what your job was when you were there,
Sure. I was the flight engineer, so I was mission specialist number 2, which means I had the best seat in the house. I was sitting in the flight deck, right behind the pilot. The commander was in front of me to my left, and the pilot was in front of me to my right. So I was in the middle, a little bit aft, and I had the best seat in the house because I could see the windows and had a panoramic view as we blasted off into space. I was a flight engineer, so I was expected to know all the systems, both on the commander side and the pilot side. In the event we had a failure, we would be able to peel off and work either with the commander or the pilot, depending on what went wrong. And then once up there, I was one of the principal robotic arm operators. I put up all the computer systems necessary to do our rendezvous docking phase of flight, and conducted a host of experiments up there. So everything was actually pretty. Everybody has a job out there, and we were all busy from the moment we got up there until the moment we landed.
And last question, what were the experiments that you were working on?
Well, for example, we had some mice. We were doing some experiments with respect to bone density. The bone density loss as a function of being in a micro G environment. There's, we had plants. We had a whole host of experiments that basically principal investigators manifest experiments once they get approved, and then us as mission specialists learn how to conduct those experiments while in space.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. Unless you have any other questions, Bob, happy talking to you as always. And now you have my number, so you can call me if you have any other questions. Feel free to call.
Okay, we'll do. Hey, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Went a little longer than I planned, but I appreciate the time.
Not a problem.
So good luck. Hopefully it goes off so you can see it.
I'm hoping. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.